In this video, we work with creating details on curved surfaces. You'll find out that the strategy you used for making details on flat surfaces just don't work anymore. So we now explore the flow command. Let's zoom into this finished cracked egg, and you'll notice that that crack detail goes all the way around and it does not repeat in any direction. So that's done the correct way. For reference, let's look at the incorrect way. So this was created by having a polyline from the front view. It was projected straight forward and backward, created this blue curve, which is on the surface that was used for a split. Here's the problem though. This thing looks perfectly symmetrical and not organic at all. So what we're about to do is take this polyline. So what I'd like to do next is figure out a way to get this polyline to wrap around the surface, and therefore it would be unique at every point and not have this repetition from front to back. Let's go ahead and do that now. I'm going to turn off the Design 1 layer, turn on the Design 02. So here you have the exact same egg unsplit, and I've made this crack along a reference line. Now the reason I'm doing this is I want to verify that the two ends are at the exact same level, and as you can see here, they're snapped to the endpoints of our reference line. And that's to verify that once they get wrapped around the egg surface, the two ends will touch and therefore join. Now the place where they will join is the seam on this target curve. It doesn't look like it has a seam because it is closed and continuous. However, let's go ahead and find out where it might be located and see if it's in the right spot. We do that by going to the curve, Edit Tools, and select Adjust Closed Curve Seam. Now I can see right here that is the technical end or start point, also called the seam. I'd like to move this. So in the middle of this command, it's quite easy. I can make sure I've got the quadrant snap on, and I can just click and drag. It should snap right to the opposite side. Right click to exit the command, and then select anywhere to get deselect the curve. So now we've moved the seam from one side to the other, and that means that these two endpoints will start and stop at that exact spot. So if you get unexpected results, make sure to check the closed curve seam on the destination. Let's start the command. It's located under Transform, Flow Along a Curve. There's a couple questions here up at the command line, so you have to pay careful attention. The objects to flow, that'll be the crack polyline. Right-click to accept. Now, before you go any further, we've got to verify something that's very important here. There's an option called Stretch. In almost every case, I definitely want to have that say yes. If you don't, this line, when flowed, may not wrap around perfectly one time. It may be short, it may be long. So now we can just verify that that will exactly hit the beginning and end at this exact same spot every time. So it's going to basically stretch to fit. Okay, the base curve, that's the kind of reference we discussed earlier. That's the straight line. And then the target curve, we want to pick somewhere near that seam. And as soon as I do so, we get instantaneous transform flow. So now you can see that the two endpoints are meeting right there at the seam. I want to double check this though. This curve does need to be closed, otherwise I won't be able to split with it later. So I'm going to select it. And if you go over to the properties, make sure this first icon is selected, and it'll tell you right off the bat if it's closed or open. So that is closed. We're in very good shape. Now you'll notice we got this crack here away from the surface. Now I just did that because it's a little easier to see, and it requires one extra step. So we're going to take this curve. We're going to go from Objects, and then instead of the project, which I showed in the very first example, which didn't work well, we're going to select a related command called Pullback. Now the way this works, instead of projecting in a single straight direction, it will pull from many directions into a surface the closest possible or perpendicular direction. So I do want to say delete the input equals yes. I don't want the original curve in the way. The curves to pull is this crack, which is in its second to last position. I'm going to right click, and then looking at the command line, surfaces and meshes that pull will be the egg. Right click to accept. And now you'll see it zooms right in there perfectly from every position. Let's wrap this up by doing the final step where we split this out. I'm going to pick the split button here on the main toolbar. Object to split is the egg itself. Right click, and then we select that curve. Since it's been moved via the pullback, it should touch exactly and work perfectly as a splitting tool. So I can go ahead now and just delete the top section so you can see the results of our work. The final thing I'd like to do is just give this a little bit of thickness. So there's a way I haven't done before, and under the solid menu, instead of the surface menu, we're going to do a quick offset here. Now, the reason I'm liking this a lot lately is I can offset and give thickness all at the same time. So I'm going to change this distance here to 4. I'm going to match the other thickness. And we always have 2 directions on a surface, so we can just flip by clicking. You can also go up to the flip all, or just click it again. It's only got 2 directions, so this toggle just reverses from one to the other. Now, you'll notice the solid equals yes is already selected, and that's because we did this offset command through the solid menu. So it's an extra step already done for you. So with everything set correctly, it looks like it is. I'm just going to right-click to accept. And there is the inset wall thickness plus that edge, and that's really important. One last thing, let's just verify this looks clean and cool. I like to always turn off the ISO curves. It gives me a much better feedback of the screen. So we turn off the ISO curves so they're not visible. And so we end up with one very good looking egg. So you might be able to use the project command in many cases as long as the surface is not too curved. However, if it curves too much, especially in situations like this where we're rotating over 180 degrees, then definitely try out the transform flow along curve command to get your curves where you need them.